Welcome back to American Morning, 15 minutes past the hour. Chances are your 401k had a very good day yesterday. The market soared on news that a solution to Europe's debt crisis could be at hand. But our next guest says it would be a big mistake to become complacent now. In Boston, Robert Kuttner, co-editor of The American Prospect and the author of the books Obama's Challenge and A Presidency in Peril. Good morning.
And good morning and happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I was happy that the stock market surged yesterday because at least I can look at my 401k and it looks a little better. But what I wonder is, so European leaders say, oh, they have this plan to help out the European banks. And I guess the big question I have is will it work?
Well, it's far from signed and sealed. The French and the Germans had a good day. It looks like they're a little closer to an agreement. But, you know, you got 17 different countries that use the euro. They disagree with each other on how to give Greece aid without rewarding Greece for getting in over its head. They disagree on how to recapitalize the European banks. They're a long way from a real solution. And then on our side of the Atlantic, we have several banks that are up to their ears in mortgages that are not paying back on time, that are very, very shaky. So the stock market has good days, it has bad days. We are a long way from being out of this mess.
You mentioned American banks that are in trouble. One of those banks would be Bank of America. You know, it bought Countrywide. It inherited all those bad mortgages. It's losing money because of them. Will Bank of America need a bailout eventually?
Well, I guess I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But my point is, if Bank of America does get into real trouble, it shouldn't get a bailout. It should get something more like what General Motors got, which is to say a pre-negotiated bankruptcy, where the government eventually has to resolve it under the new authority of the Dodd-Frank law. That means that the people who got us into this mess lose their jobs, and the bank is perhaps broken up. It's temporarily taken over by the government. This is what the FDIC does with small banks. And then they take a good, honest look at their books. The bondholders eat some of the loss, as happened with GM. And then they restore it to health under new ownership. That was the big fight in '09. Secretary Kuttner was of the view that you don't want to do that. That might be bad for market confidence. Better to throw money at them, better to prop them up. I think if Obama gets a do-over and he faces this again with, let's say, Bank of America, and I should say, I'm speaking hypothetically here, I don't want to cause a run on the bank, this time they should use the new authority under the Dodd-Frank Act and do something like they did with GM, which actually worked.
You know, I can't envision another bailout because there are all these protests going on Wall Street right now. The Tea Party is a political force, and the Tea Party didn't so much love the idea of a bailout. I just can't see how that would happen again.
No, and what I'm saying is I'm distinguishing between a bailout where you throw money at these banks that got us into trouble and don't require them to change their business model. None of the bankers who caused the crisis lose their jobs. Rather, you break it up and clean it out, and it's the bondholders who take the hit rather than the taxpayers. And I think if one of these big banks does turn critical, that's the crucial choice that Obama faces. And you're very right to point out that the protests on Wall Street, even though not everybody sympathizes with the tactics, there's a lot of sympathy with the idea that we are the 99%. They are the 1% that got us into this mess. So I'm saying it would be good politics, it would be good economics, not to bail them out, but to clean them out.
So you're saying these Wall Street protests, as unfocused as they may be, are having an effect on policy being made in Washington right now?
Well, the president himself has said they've tapped into popular frustration. Other mainstream Democrats certainly have said that they speak for a general feeling that it was Wall Street who got us into this difficulty, and it ups the ante on the president and his Treasury Secretary, not just to throw more money at them, but to fix the problem, because the banks have been dragging down the economy. When you just bail out a bank that's effectively insolvent and you pretend that everything's okay, then the bank is risk averse when it comes to making loans. You don't get refinancing of mortgages. Small business doesn't get the credit that it needs, and it's like a lead weight on the economy. So this time, if another one gets into big trouble, let's fix it properly.
Robert Kuttner, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.